It started out as nothing, a faint noise coming from the air conditioning unit in my living room. At first it blended in with the usual symphony of creaks and groans an old apartment makes, a subtle clanking, only when the unit turned on. I chalked it up to the place's age. The washing machine shook like it wanted to take off, the dishwasher sounded like a jet engine, and the fridge hummed loud enough to drown out the TV. So, what was one more little noise? I pushed it to the back of my mind. That was until it got worse. I noticed the rattling one night. It didn't fade after a few seconds like it used to. It lingered, almost like it wanted to be heard. I should tell the landlord, I muttered, but the noise stopped before I could act. I shrugged it off, and weeks passed. The strange sounds continued, scratching in the walls, flickering lights, thumps in the night. I reasoned it all away. Old wiring. Maybe a mouse got in. Noisy neighbors. I worked long hours, so I wasn't home much, but then I started noticing things missing. Little things at first. A TV remote, a pair of socks, a calculator, and one lone shoe. Not exactly things you misplace easily. It was unsettling. I finally decided to do a full sweep of my small one-bedroom apartment. Room by room I searched, but the more I looked, the more I realized other things were missing too. The place felt off, like I was living in a stranger's home. Frustrated, I slumped into my chair and pressed the power button on the TV. Nothing. The screen stayed black. I flipped the light switch. No response. What the hell is going on? I muttered. One by one, I tested all the appliances and none worked, except, strangely enough, for the air conditioning unit. It sputtered to life with an ear-splitting rattle, ran for a minute, then popped and died, leaving me in complete silence. That night I barely slept. The building felt alive around me, creaking and groaning. Every noise, every whisper of sound set my nerves on edge. And the power? Still, out by morning. Frustrated, I headed to my neighbor's place. I knocked loud and hard, but no answer. No lights, no sound, nothing. Desperate for a solution, I stormed to the maintenance office. The door creaked open and a stench hit me like a wall. Stale smoke and dust. The place was a wreck, papers scattered across the desk, ashtrays overflowing. Behind the mess sat a thin, graying man who looked as if he hadn't seen a shower in weeks. I explained the situation, my words spilling out in frustration. Everything's dead except the air conditioner, until it died too. What the hell is going on? He gave me a look that was half bored, half annoyed. Let's take a look. We walked back to the apartment in silence. He went straight to the AC unit, unscrewing the faceplate. The flashlight in his hand flickered, casting long shadows across the walls. Then, he froze. This yours? He held up a tiny device attached to a cord. I blinked, confused. What is that? He smirked, but there was no warmth in it. Looks like a spy camera. You haven't been filming anything, have you? Some kind of freak show? He chuckled. What? No. Why the hell would that be in my apartment? Panic spiked through me. Was he in on this? Was someone watching me? The man shrugged, completely unfazed. Let's follow the wire, see where it leads. He traced the cord with his hand, eyes narrowing as he followed it to a small hole in the wall. Looks like it goes further in. With a grunt, he pulled out a hammer and began smashing chunks of drywall. My mind raced. Had someone been watching me? How long had they been there? The more he worked, the worse it got. Hidden wires led to other cameras tucked in vents, shadows, even behind the eye of a picture hanging on my wall. How did I not see these before? My pulse quickened with every discovery. Your whole place is wired, he muttered. Everything leads back to the bedroom. My heart stopped cold. The bedroom? Why? He knocked another hole in the wall, then stopped. His flashlight beam bounced, revealing something glowing. The space opens up here. I think there's something back there. He smashed the wall wider and squeezed into the darkness. Seconds later, he emerged, pale and shaken. The calm demeanor he'd worn was gone. He looked sick. You don't want to know. His voice trembled. There's a room back there. Monitors. Wires. Someone's been living in your walls. They've been watching you." A chill ran through me. "Living in the walls? What the hell are you talking about?" He swallowed hard. "I'd move if I were you, fast." I didn't argue. I packed my bags that same day and fled to my mother's house, terrified of spending another second in that cursed apartment. The police came to investigate, but what they found was even worse than I imagined. 20 monitors, all wired to VHS players in the hidden room, but no tapes, and no sign of whoever had been watching me. Weeks passed. I tried to move on, to forget, but then one day a package arrived on my mother's doorstep. It was unmarked, plain. I opened it hesitantly, my heart racing in my chest. Inside was everything that had gone missing from my apartment. Every sock, every remote, every little thing. But that wasn't all. At the bottom of the box was a crumpled, dirty scrap of paper. Scribbled in barely legible writing were the words, "I like your new place much better." I was 17 when she came. 17 years of enduring my mother's cruel, abusive grip, each day stretching longer than the last. It was just past midnight. The house bathed in the silence of sleep, when I heard the faintest tap on the front door. 3 soft knocks. My mother was already out cold, so it fell to me to answer. When I opened the door, I wasn't prepared for what stood before me. A girl no older than 6, small and fragile, her cheeks as pale as moonlight. Her blonde hair hung in 2 lifeless braids, and her pink dress was tattered at the hem as if it had seen better days. She was barefoot, her feet a chilling blue from the biting winter air. But it wasn't the cold or her torn dress that froze me in place. It was her eyes. They were deep, hollow pits of black, as if they could swallow the very soul out of me. Instinct took over. I pulled her inside without a second thought, rushing her into the warmth of the living room. Wrapping her in a thick afghan my grandmother had knitted, I tried to bring warmth to her tiny body, but she just sat there, still and unaffected, her black eyes watching me, studying me. "What's your name, sweetie?" I asked, trying to break the silence. A long pause. Those dark, fathomless eyes never blinked. Just as I began to feel the prickle of unease crawling up my spine, she spoke, her voice soft, almost too soft for the room. "Lacy Morgan." I forced a smile, though my heart raced. "You can stay here tonight, Lacy." I gestured to the couch. She curled up on it, never breaking her gaze. I turned and left the room, hoping sleep would come quickly to drown out the growing discomfort her presence gave me. That night, for the first time in years, I slept soundly. No nightmares of my mother's beatings, no fear, just an odd sense of peace. Morning broke with the sound of shattered ceramic. A coffee mug slammed into my shoulder, sending a sharp jolt of pain through me. I turned to see my mother, her face twisted with fury. "What the hell did you do to the couch?" she screamed. "Why is there dirt all over it?" Confused, I rushed to the living room, but Lacy was gone. Only a trail of dirt remained where she had lain. I took the blame for it, as always, and my mother rewarded me with a vicious slap across the face. But something deeper gnawed at me. Who was Lacy? Where had she gone? At school, the answer came like a cold wind down my spine. "Did you hear about Lacy Morgan?" a classmate whispered. "They found her dead last night." I froze. My blood ran cold. Lacy. Dead? I spent the day in a daze, waiting, hoping for more information. When I got home, the TV was blaring the evening news. Lacy Morgan, age 6, was found buried in her backyard late last night. Authorities suspect her mother, Marissa Morgan, in the girl's death. Marissa has a history of child abuse, and it is believed she may have killed her daughter hours before she was found. My heart stopped when a picture of Lacy filled the screen. Blonde hair in braids, a pink dress, pale skin. It was her, but something was wrong. Her cheeks were flushed with life, and her eyes, they were blue. Bright, innocent blue. The girl who had knocked on my door had been dead long before she arrived. That night I tried to block it all out, going to bed early. But sleep didn't last. I woke to the softest touch on my cheek, cool fingers brushing the bruise my mother had left. "Never again?" A whisper drifted through the darkness. Lacy's voice. I bolted upright, heart pounding, but no one was there. 10 minutes later, my mother's screams shattered the silence. I ran to her room, and what I saw almost broke my mind. My mother thrashed on the bed, wild with terror, and there, perched on her chest, was Lacy, her face buried deep into my mother's skin. The sound of flesh tearing filled the room, and my mother's screams grew desperate. I wanted to run, I should have. But I stood frozen, watching in horror as Lacy lifted her head, her small mouth dripping with blood, revealing sharp, jagged teeth. Her black eyes met mine, and she smiled, a grotesque, innocent smile, before she tore out my mother's throat in a swift, savage motion. I fainted. When I woke, I was in my bed. Everything felt like a nightmare. I forced myself to my mother's room, morbid curiosity driving me. The room was empty. The bed was made, as if she had never slept there. But the small, dirty footprints leading to the open window told me the truth. Lacy had been there, and my mother was gone, forever. I never saw her again, and I never missed her. Years passed, I moved on, married, and had a daughter of my own. I named her Lacy, after the little girl who had saved me. But recently, something strange has been happening. My neighbor's daughter often shows up with bruises and scrapes. And last night I saw something that made my blood run cold. A little girl, running barefoot through their yard, her blonde braids bouncing in the moonlight. She stopped, looked straight at me with those familiar black eyes, and mouthed two chilling words. Never again.